Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back, as the case may be. Glad you can make it. I am going to say one thing first because my sister made me, and just to let you know that every like and subscribe gives me the ability to do this for a living someday, which I'd like to do. Who wouldn't like to sit and talk for a living? But at any rate, um, I will try to put up a like and subscribe button. And if I don't make that, please stick around to the end to do so. And stick around to the end anyway. That's the other thing that thrills the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, what I'm here for today is to talk about expectations. Do you remember that old, vaguely patronizing thing your parents may have said when they were punishing you as a child? You know, this hurts me more than it hurts you. Well, yeah, we didn't believe it at the time. We were pretty sure wasn't true, but it is true for expectations. They hurt the person with them much, much more than the one they're thinking about most of the time. The expectation may be different when it's your expectations of your kids, but that's a whole separate thing. This is about adult relationships with adult people. So I've been known, I am not immune, I have been known to play elaborate scenarios in my head of how I expect a given interaction to go, an interview, whatever it happens to be. I don't know if everybody does that, but I often have a tape running of what I think things should be and what things are actually turning out to be and comparing them in my head, which is possible that it edges into the insanity portion of the program, but hopefully not. But at any rate, um, let's define expectations. Expectations are those feelings that you assemble for how you believe something will happen or believe something should happen, which is more to the point. Um, they're your feelings, and they're certainly valid for you, but they may not in any way be what the other person in the relationship or the interaction thinks should or will happen. And that's not necessarily a good thing, but it can be occasionally. Just a few days ago, my husband was trying to get his electronic key fob working for my car. The battery had died a few weeks back, and 3 replacement batteries later, the stupid thing still wouldn't work. The metal key tucked inside it worked for the door, of course, and holding it up against the steering column apparently got him home the first time it quit on him. But there's literally no place to actually insert a key to start this little SUV. So he went online, he found instructions to program it, and had just put in another 20 minutes without success. There's 2 things you need to know. My husband's a mechanic, it's what he does for a living. And I grew up with a very angry father. So when my husband walked inside with the key fob, I asked him if he would let me try something. And he said, of course, sure, and handed it over. And with his help, I pried the thing open, flipped the battery, and then closed it back, and it worked on the first try. Now, the reason I said all those things is because if I had been my mother and my husband had been my father, I would have get the crap beat out of me because my father would have assumed that my mother was believed that she was smarter than he was, which he could not bear. So I was a little worried about asking him if I could try that. And I was, in all honesty, hoping it wouldn't work. So instead of beating the crap out of me, my husband kissed me, told me thanks. That was a really wonderful way of thinking outside the box, got in the car, and drove away where he was going. When he came back, he kissed me again and said thank you again and told me that had he taken it to a dealer, they would have basically told him how stupid he was. And I saved him from that, saved us both from that. And I told him I found it online. It wasn't a problem for him. So my expectations were not met in any way. And I was terribly grateful for that. But what it taught me is that we tend to assemble our expectations out of old patterns, particularly with our partners, with these people that we love. And we assume they're going to uh, act exactly like our parents did, the people that we loved growing up. And that may or may not be a good thing. You may expect that your wife is going to act like your mother would in any given situation. And if she doesn't, you'll be disappointed. So I'm here to tell you today just might be the day to really look at your old patterns and see what expectations you're putting on that relationship. I have to admit, I've tripped over my own expectations of what will happen with so many people and so many times over the years that I finally figured out, for most of them at least, that I have to ratchet them back. Not for the benefit of other people. I'm no candidate for sainthood, goodness only knows, but for my own benefit, to keep me from feeling that sinking feeling and that horrible realization that the other person is not going to meet my expectations. I've explained this to other people, what I have learned over the years. And unfortunately, it appears to be something that's really hard for people to hold on to. For instance, there's a person in my life, a woman that I dearly love, who goes into every situation with her ex husband, truly believing that this time it's going to be different and that he is going to be a decent human being and make her life a little easier for the things that they have to do together. Now, Albert Einstein didn't actually say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. It probably came out of the 12-step movement. But nonetheless, it begins to feel like insanity when you do that kind of thing. She always expects him to be reasonable. It is possible that the man is just uh, or possibly or possibly yeah, but it's also possible that she hasn't learned yet that those things have to that she has to learn from the past in order to change her expectations of him. If she expects him to be, then her expectations will be satisfied and she won't be nearly as unhappy. But she's an optimist, and I'm an optimist as well. Like so many things, though, optimism's a spectrum. You can be slightly optimistic, or you can be a sort of pie in the sky optimist. And you've got to find the happy medium for yourself. Um, it does help when you begin to learn that you can say, wow, I was hoping you would say that instead of, wow, that was not what I expected, to the person who you are interacting with. But those expectations have to be realistic, not fluffy clouds of expectations of these wonderful things that are gonna happen. Now, we're human and we're apparently going to have expectations of others, both in how they're going to act and how they're going to feel. But here's the deal, sunshine. You actually don't have the ability to judge how someone else is going to feel. You may think you do, but you are wrong. Sometimes a little wrong, and sometimes a lot wrong, even in very positive interactions. I thought my husband was going to feel very frustrated and cranky that someone who doesn't have any mechanical knowledge fixed that key, or at least cranky with himself and frustrated with himself that he didn't think to turn that battery over. I was wrong. But I was working from old patterns, ones that were ingrained in me as a very young child, ones of another wretch who, as Walter Scott would have said, doubly dying, shall go down to the vile dust from which he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. He's long dead, but still allowing him to rent a little space in my head for how I think my husband's going to react. It's time to let that go. And it's a great lesson, but just to lighten it up a little bit and to think about it differently, what patterns and expectations are you laying on other people? Do you find yourself frustrated because they're not doing what you think they could or should or might or ought to do? They haven't violated you. They've violated your expectations. So maybe it's time to give some of those up. Rein them in. Stop weighing your relationships down with expectations that may or may not be satisfied. And if that expectation is terribly important to you and you haven't told them that, maybe it's time you do, because they can't read your mind or your feelings either. But I could be wrong about all of this, you know. I'm just thinking out loud. You tell me. And don't forget to like and subscribe and give me the ability to do this for a living someday. And I really do appreciate everyone. It might hurt my expectations if you don't like and subscribe, or it might not. I'll let you know. See you in the next video. Bye.